Hello, today we're going to take a look at one of the features of Alert Sync, which is our product that pushes up SCOM alerts into ServiceNow as incidents to automate that process. And it's the server down correlation feature, allowing you to reduce the number of incidents raised in ServiceNow. So we'll take a look initially at the high level, what's the feature, what does it do, and then we're going to look at how it works. So starting with, what is it? So consider the scenario. You have a server running a bunch of stuff, and for whatever reason the server goes down, and the result is all the things that run or that are monitored that run on top of this server generating a whole bunch of alerts, and these alerts being sent slowly over to ServiceNow as incidents. As you would expect, the reality is all of these alerts and therefore incidents are caused by one thing, which is that server being down for whatever reason. We don't need, however many incidents this equates to. So we want to kind of reduce the number of incidents from these same alerts. And it gets worse when you factor in this piece of the puzzle too. So now imagine that your server that's down runs on is a virtual server and runs on some kind of hypervisor with other servers as well. And the reason why the server is down is because the hypervisor is down. You get this problem on steroids because then not only have you got all of the alerts from the original server, but also all of the alerts from everything else as well. And the ultimate cause is hypervisor is down. So that's the problem that this feature looks to address essentially. And we do this via correlation. In the creation rules, there's a really simple single checkbox here called correlate server down alerts. Here it is on the advanced tab, and you would just check it. And then if an incoming SCOM alert matches this, and it matches a server down alert, which I'll dig into in a second, then all future alerts will be associated with that same incident that's raised from that server down alert. So then you go from what I showed in the previous slide to, okay, hypervisor is down. The first alert from this server is likely to be the classic heartbeat failure or something to that effect, which will be raised as an incident, which is what you want. But all the other alerts will simply be associated with that same initial incident rather than raised as individual incidents. So you'll get an incident per server rather than per alert. We did consider adding in the ability to do this at the hypervisor level, but we thought that would be sort of not best practice because you want to have a record of the fact that these servers went down from the perspective of kind of SLAs inside of ServiceNow. So we chose not to do that. It's possible to add as a script, post-processing script, but we chose again not to do that. Great, let's look at how this works now. So here I am in SCOM, and you can see that one of my machines, this looks like my domain controller, which would be very bad news indeed, is failing to heartbeat. And it's generating a bunch of other alerts. These are all PowerShell ones from the looks of things. If I were to push these across to ServiceNow, I would, without the correlation feature, get an incident for each of them. If I push across this one first and then these, I'll get a single incident for this, followed by subsequent alerts being pushed across, but not raised as incidents. The first thing I need to tell you is in my lab, SCOM alerts are only pushed across to ServiceNow when they're in the state of resolution state of raise incident, this one here. What I'm actually going to do is push them all across at the same time in one big block to see what happens here, and I'll explain what happens when it happens essentially. So I'm going to set their resolution state to raise incident. I'll likely break the video here for a minute as these will take a few minutes to be pushed across into ServiceNow. Okay, so I'm in ServiceNow and I can see that my alerts are starting to come in. I'm just going to refresh as they slowly trickle in. They're first held back by a wait rule in my lab here. So you can see that the created incident field, the created record field, unlike the ones below, is currently blank. If I pop open my creation rules a second, you'll see the first one is a wait rule here. It holds back incoming SCOM alerts for a minute just to handle flapping ones. So that's happening, but there they all are. This is sorted by the created column, so you can see the order in which ServiceNow received them. which will give some indication as to what will happen. And where is our server down alert? Still coming from the looks of things. Here it is at the top of the list. So it was the last one to come in. So here we go. You can see they're now starting to get incidents in the order they come in as. So you can see that, if I go to the bottom of the list, they've each got a unique incident number because they came in this order. So the first incident to come in was not the server down one, it's actually the last one. So what I'm expecting to see here is that each of these alerts gets an individual incident rather than being correlated. Obviously, yeah, and that's what's happened. So you can see, you'll see that in SCOM in a second. If we go back in a second, their incident number gets pushed through. So that's an example of something that can happen to be aware of. So I'm now going to show you a slightly different case where you push the SCOM alerts through one by one rather than push them all at once. This is probably more realistic because we're obviously not pushing them as they're being raised. And the first piece of monitoring likely to detect something is wrong is the heartbeat failure or failed to connect to computer piece of monitoring. So this is probably more real world. So we're going to push these ones up one by one, starting with one of these two alerts, which are the two specific alerts that trigger this piece of functionality to fire, which are the health service heartbeat failure and failed to connect to computer alerts. These two specific alerts are what we're looking for in Cookdown. Before I push these up, I'm going to do something in my rules in ServiceNow. The first case I showed you was in the case of Active Directory. I'm going to just make sure that my correlate server down alerts flag is on for my catch all rule, because I know that those two servers don't match any of these specific rules. And if I see here, it's not on right now. So I'll go to the advanced tab and check to enable correlate server down alerts, as otherwise obviously it won't happen. This rule's conditions are just very simply, it is alert and it is not closed. It's active. That's also very important. So I'm going to update this. So now when I push across, there it is, true. I'm going to push across these three alerts from InfraWeb 01. This guy here, one by one, starting with this guy. It doesn't really matter which. Essentially, if either a health service heartbeat failure or failed to connect to computer is received by ServiceNow, either one of those will trigger this state where we correlate future alerts against this machine. So I'm pushing it through. I'm going to wait for the forwarding status and connector fields to be set. In other words, for the internal connector to have picked up the alert. And then I'm going to set the next one into the right state. So they get pushed through in sequence, and then we're going to have a look at what happens in ServiceNow. I may break the video a few points here, depending on how long things take. I don't want you to have to watch me refresh screens. There we go. So you can see the connector and forwarding status fields have been updated. So the internal connector is beginning to push that guy up. We're going to push up next this one. Why not? The PowerShell script error, raise incident. And while that's being picked up by the connector, we're going to go into ServiceNow again and go to our SCOM alerts, which you'll note I've sorted by created. This is the date stamp where the alert was received by our ServiceNow store app, not the date timestamp for when the alert was raised by SCOM, which is held in the time raised field. So you'll see in this case, this alert that I'm looking at right now was raised 4 days ago and received by ServiceNow 7 minutes ago. So what we're looking for here is in the monitored object display name, we're looking for those alerts from InfraWeb 01. Again, I may break the video here. Here we go. So this is the first one, which is our failed to connect to computer alert. It's being held back by a wait rule. If I show you in my creation rule, the highest priority rule is our wait rule. So it's got a minute's wait in it before it gets evaluated against rules. While that's waiting, I'm going to push across the final of our 3 SCOM alerts, just checking the other 2 have been picked up by the connector. We obviously know the first one has already. There we go. And back into ServiceNow. And we'll refresh and see what's happening. So look, here we go. You can see our first alerts come through. It's got an incident ID. The second alert, the PowerShell one, is being held by the wait rules, so it's not yet been evaluated against incident creation rules. But here it's from the right machine, Web01. Perfect. Here we go. Next refresh. So we have these two alerts correlated to the same incident. So the first one that came in was obviously failed to connect to computer. So Alert Sync knows, well, PowerShell script failure, well, this machine is down, so yeah, the PowerShell script will fail. So it's given it the same record, same incident number. And this final one here, health service heartbeat failure, when it's through its wait period, should also get the same incident ID. Here we go, look, so you can see, look, all three of these alerts have the same incident ID. Brilliant. So that's what the correlation feature does. So the next piece of this puzzle is, so what happens when this machine comes back up? We want these incidents to be resolved, and we want the correlation of alerts to stop happening. So before I do anything and power on any boxes or anything, which is what I'm going to do with this machine in a minute, I'm going to first go into my creation rules again, for my generic infrastructure one at the bottom, and on the advanced tab here I want to check what happens when the SCOM alert closes. What will it do with the incident? I want it to resolve the incident, is what I want it to do, rather than nothing, because what I'm expecting to happen is that when these heartbeat failures, which are generated from a monitor, when the monitor detects the machine is back up, it will heal and these alerts will close, is what I'm expecting to happen, and therefore I want the incidents to be resolved, and that's what I'm expecting to happen. But that won't happen unless I've told Alert Sync that when the SCOM alert closes to resolve the incident. By default, when the incident is resolved, the SCOM alert is closed and monitors are reset, but not by default the other way around. So there we go. I've set it. Let's just check I saved it. I did, and now we're going to power up the machine in question. Here we go. So this is our Azure lab essentially, and this is the VM in question, InfraWeb01, which is the machine that has been raising our alert. We just go back and have a look just to make sure I'm right. InfraWeb01, there it is. So we're going to start this box up and then give it a bit of time to start up. It will take a minute or two. So what I'm expecting to happen is that these monitors will auto heal, and the incidents will be resolved, or incident singular in this case, will be resolved. So we'll just have to now wait and see. An easier way to see this is if I open, obviously, Health Explorer here. We have the monitors themselves that generate these alerts. So we have computer not reachable and health service heartbeat failure. So we're going to wait for these to go green and see that come through in the state change events, because obviously as soon as these alerts close, they'll disappear from view, and I'll have to go and dig them up from closed alerts. This is just a bunch easier. Okay, so now I am back in Health Explorer, and you can see that basically my health service heartbeat failure monitor has been reset. It's green, it's healthy again. The SCOM alerts in question for Web01 have been closed out. Nothing in here from that machine at all, I don't think. Nope. Okay, and now we go back into service now, and you'll see the SCOM alerts from Web01 are all in resolution state of closed. So what I should see is that the incident itself is marked as resolved, and there's a work note in it. Let's have a look. So here we go. So yeah, the incident is resolved, and if I scroll down a little bit, you'll see there's a work note in here that says this alert has been resolved in SCOM, so you can see what happened and why. So that's good news. So now future SCOM alerts will get raised independently from this box, and that's basically how correlation works. So for more information on Cookdown Alert Sync, go to cookdown.com/alert-sync. Feel free to get in touch with us. There's a contact form on that page, or you can email us at hello@cookdown.com, and we'll be happy to help. We give demos of the product, and if you have any specific questions, we can answer them in that forum. And keep an eye out for other videos from us on other topics, going deep into specific features. Thanks for watching this video.